Good evening and welcome to Mental Health Matters After Hours with me, Dr Audrey Tang. My co-host is Judith Crosier and we're coming to you at 4 a.m. GMT or 8 p.m. PT because we know that you can have mental health support needs at any time, day or night. In today's show, we are going to be speaking about the menopause. But we're going to take a lighter look at it because our special guest is Jennifer Kennedy. She is an award-winning writer, performer, comedian, and she has written a play called Queenagers. And before we meet her, let's take a look.
Thank you. I'm pleased, first of all, that my menopausal radar is absolutely spot on. When Becca asked who was menopausal, I had already done a quick scan and worked it out. It's that look. You're either going to cry, or you're going to punch somebody. It could go either way. And another category is people that are here to support menopausal partners or relatives. We've got into here supporting the menopausal women, finding out a bit more. Yeah. There's this kind of stunned look. What's happened? Nobody likes you to be single, do they? It starts almost immediately. Oh, come on, get back out there. You're not that old. Maybe a bit of makeup. So my niece then starts with me, come on Jennifer, come on, get yourself on these dating apps. It's so different now. In my day, you go out, you get pissed, you see somebody, you think, well, you'll do. Then you're engaged, then you're married, and that's it. Not now. So she says, we need to get you on the dating apps. I'm like, right, okay. And she went, come on, be excited. I'm like, well, but you must miss the passion, you must miss the sex. So I've been having sex since before you were born. You deserve a fucking break. She doesn't give up easy though. So finally, I agree. She gets me ready, she's right, I'm going to take your photo, and I go, okay then. She said, well, what's that? I went, what's the photo? She was like, no, we can't put that on, I will help you. Now, she takes more selfies of herself than I have ever had taken photographs of me my entire life. So I thought, well, I'll go with her advice. So she says, okay, put one leg in front of the other. Okay. Now, you'll need to create a thigh gap.
Jennifer, it was so great to see that little extract of Queenagers, and it brought back a number of memories when you're talking about how to pose for your selfie. And it is one of those things where there is that generation almost gap because of the technology, and you just address so many things. Can you tell me a little bit more about Queenagers as a theatrical piece, please?
So Queenagers was a show that I put together full of music, monologues, comedy. The idea was to have it as a sort of antidote to the usual doom and gloom that surrounds midlife and menopause. So we wanted people to come along, have a laugh, have a good time, sing along, enjoy themselves, and most importantly think, do you know what, it's not just me, and I've got a voice. I can see people like me on the stage. I can hear experiences like experiences that I've gone through. And ultimately, it was a celebration. We wanted people to celebrate the freedom and joy that comes with midlife and have a good laugh about it as well. So that was the idea behind the show. We've just finished our second sellout run and we're working on our third one, which is fantastic.
And you can hear from the audience reaction just how powerful and popular your work is. It was infectious how happy people were when they watched it. It was just really, really beautiful. And so you do also focus on menopause and perimenopause and as one of the aspects of midlife. Why is there so much content to explore in this lighter way in that area?
There's definitely been an explosion recently, and I think I call it the Davina effect. So since Davina McCall, obviously sexy, sassy, successful, not the kind of person that you would think would be open about her struggles with the menopause, but I think she kicked it off and then made a number of celebrities that jumped on and said, you know, I'm going through this, I'm experiencing this. And that really got the conversation going and people talking about things that perhaps previously were a bit taboo. So I think in reaction to that demand, the supply has gone crazy. So everywhere there are newspaper articles, there are magazine things, there are podcasts, there are so much stuff out there that people have access to. And it's a good thing because we have, 13 million people in the UK that are currently going through the menopause. So the menopause pound is a real thing. And I think, you know, we can experience up to 40 different symptoms. Nobody goes through it in the same way as somebody else. So we all want to know more now. We all want to take control of our health and move forwards and see this as a kind of great experience as opposed to a horrible, you know, depressing experience. So I think that's why there's just so much there. Supply is finally catching up with demand.
And that's really important. And the way you talk about it, it makes that conversation really easy. And when you have those discussions on the stage and you're open with all of these experiences, what do you want your audiences to leave the theatre thinking?
So I want them to leave feeling uplifted, and that tends to happen. We have people laughing, we have people hugging each other, we have people crying as well. And I want them to leave feeling that they're not alone anymore, that this is something that affects everybody. I'd like them to leave thinking, you know, menopause is a rite of passage and to treat it as such. It's a time to accept it, maybe not completely celebrate it, but at least acknowledge and honour what you're going through. And I want them to walk taller. I want them to walk out thinking, heads up high, grace of a woman, not that fear and that terror that sometimes comes with midlife. So again, to think, you know, it's never too late. You're never too old to give life, love, whatever you want from life, another go. So I want them to know it's not all dry fannies, fat bellies and whiskers, basically.
Yes, brilliant.
Well, that's good. that is uplifting. So something that we hear from our own parents or friends' parents quite a lot is, oh, I just sailed through the menopause, it was fine. Do you think that was true, or do you think that people didn't talk about it then, or do you think that actually not enough was known?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of points to that. I think about 10% of people do sail through it with no symptoms, so not everybody's affected. But I think a lot of people do suffer symptoms, terrible symptoms, and they just don't realise it's the menopause. And I have certainly spoken to friends who thought they were going through severe depression. Some people thought they were bipolar. Some people felt, I've got arthritis, I've got all these joint pains. And actually, a lot of these are menopause symptoms that aren't, you know, recognised as such. I mean, for me, I thought I had Alzheimer's. I genuinely went down to the doctor and said, I think I've got early onset Alzheimer's. I couldn't remember anything. I was sitting at work, not remembering what the next thing I was supposed to say. I was talking to friends and I was losing track of the conversation. So went down there, absolutely convinced I had Alzheimer's, and left with an HRT prescription, with the doctor thankfully being very understanding. He went, I think it's menopause. I was like, it can't possibly be menopause, I'm not that old. Turns out I was. So yeah, and again, at one point I even thought I had Tourette's, because I'm not a swearer, but I was effing and being and seeing with temper and rage, which again is another menopause symptom, which you can get mixed up with and start to think you're going crazy. I thought I had diabetes because I was so tired. I didn't have diabetes. But for me, it doesn't work for everybody. For me, HRT took away a lot of these symptoms. But I have had friends that have gone on antidepressants, or they started treatment for different things that actually, if you took the right treatment for the menopause, you'd start to see those symptoms going away. So yeah, I think it's great. Some people do sail through it. Yeah, part of me wants to murder them. But for some people, there is a confusion about over what menopause symptoms
so
actually are.
Some people might consider that they sailed through it but just had other things, but actually that was a menopause and they didn't sail through it at all. It's quite interesting.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you. We've spoken to experts in this field, and obviously, that can be quite serious, and we talk about issues. But you want to keep it light, and there's a lot of comedy, evidently. So why do you prefer to deal with it like this rather than kind of straight down the line?
I think some of the more medical ways of talking about it can be quite frightening to people. The discussion around hormone imbalances, the discussion around all this kind of medical stuff, and we do get embarrassed. Like I made a bit of a joke about it before, but as hair starts to come through in your face and your libido starts to fall, it's all stuff that people maybe don't want to talk about when it's serious. But if you get a laugh about it, I think people are more likely to talk about it. It's more light, it's more reassuring. People want to make other people laugh. And I just think that makes it a lot easier and a lot more reassuring to people.
That reassuring point is exactly it. So you're staying with us, Jennifer, and we'll be back just after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours, and we have Jennifer with us. Jennifer, I really like how you address the less pleasant aspects, maybe weight gain, night sweats, exhaustion, and some of the others that you covered before. And it's really important to raise awareness of this, because otherwise it's easy to just put it down to stress, maybe. Do you think that women would rather they were diagnosed with something like stress than being told it's a menopause?
Yeah, I think attitudes are changing, but I think even 3 or 4 years ago, there'd be a bit of embarrassment about saying that you're menopausal, and to give you some figures, 30% of women who are menopausal will be signed off work because of menopausal symptoms, but 39% of them asked to be signed off with stress and anxiety rather than have menopause written down on the sick line. Now there's legislation now coming in which I think is great, so that might start to change things. Menopause is now seen as a protected characteristic, and workplaces are obliged to do things to support women as they go through the menopause. So I think people might be more open now. I think as well, the other thing that puts women off perhaps of getting a diagnosis is how the medical profession still primarily choose to view it as perhaps just something that all women go through, just get on with it. So women are maybe a bit more scared to go and say that. Now, I think that's changing. I've had a great doctor, it's been fantastic, and I've had very good treatment, but that's not a common story. Again, just maybe to be a bit more lighthearted, you only need to go back 100 or so years to look at how menopause used to be treated by the medical profession. For example, you may have seen this in the video. Some doctors believed it was because you no longer bled, so they attached leeches to women's genitals to make them bleed, thinking that would fix it. Some doctors said, let's do a clitoridectomy, that will help them. That's exactly what it sounds like, and there were about 200 of them carried out. Obviously that did not help. People were put into lunatic asylums. So historically, the medical profession does not have a good reputation for working with women and women's issues. I think that's obviously changing a lot now. But yes, I think a lot of women still will rather have stress put down than menopause. But again, I hope that is now starting to change.
Yeah, definitely. We've heard that it's been called a second spring. Do you think that the menopause needs some PR, or that maybe we just need to lighten up about it because it's just a phase that we're going through?
Yeah, and that phrase comes from China. So in China, women's menopause is referred to as a second spring, and it's seen as a very positive change. I think the PR is getting better. Menopause does have a way of just grabbing you by the throat and saying, what is it you're waiting for? Like, you've not got much longer left. what are you waiting for? So it's a bit of focus to say, and I call it a fecket list. It's a list of things you've always wanted to do, but maybe society or pressures of looking after children or parents start to fade away, and now it's time to do exactly what you want. Now that list can be anything. I have a friend that one day a week, she's 4 children, one day a month, she goes to a very cheap travel lodge down the road without her phone, and she sits there for 24 hours. Her husband can come and get her if there's an emergency, but as far as she's concerned, that's her thing that she does every month. 19 quid for the travel lodge, her books, her TV, and she just has 24 hours complete peace. So it doesn't have to be, climbing Kilimanjaro. You might have wanted, a wild tattoo to get done, but you always thought, maybe that's not sensible. You might want a mad, crazy convertible car. It's things that you just think, I've always wanted to do this. Why do I keep putting it off? And I think that's going back to your second spring. It gives it a more positive meaning, and it does, I think, give it a better PR and a better way of thinking about it.
Yes, because that could have been called a midlife crisis previously as well, and that's really problematic. Talking about society, I love how your blog focuses on the everyday woman, because that is so important. Because we've had other guests say that it can feel a bit like menopause treatment can be a bit of a privilege for those who can afford it. And it's great that you've got celebrities talking about it, but their experience is going to be a little bit different. What are some of those differences in what is available for people?
So I think there's a huge difference, and there definitely is a privilege gap. So if you have for example, first thing is, if you want some help with your menopause, the majority of menopause clinics have now been closed down with funding cuts. You can go privately. And people like Dr Louise Newson, there are some great doctors out there that you can go and talk to specifically about the menopause. The starting price is around £200 for an initial appointment, which puts it out of the reach of an awful lot of women. But obviously, if you're wealthy, you can afford to go and do that. There are a huge number of treatments out there. I've got one here. It's called a Lady Care Magnet, and it basically is a magnet you can attach to your pants, and it's supposed to help. Now, I have to be honest and say it did not help me, but I've had friends that it's helped. Now, if you've got they're £65, so for women who've got quite a bit of money, it's no problem. You can go and buy that. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But again, less so. A really good diet does cost extra money, but that can definitely help with your menopause symptoms. Have you got the money to go part-time? Because genuinely, you're going to probably be quite exhausted during parts of the menopause. So definitely think there are some things that are easier if you are wealthier, so definitely more privilege. And it shouldn't be like that, but I think the accessibility now through all the stuff that's out there that you can access for free definitely helps. You use Google, you go onto Davina McCall's Instagram, you go onto other celebrities' Instagram, and instantly you can see it. And less famous people as well are putting their experiences online as well, which definitely helps.
And sort of sticking with the fact that these are more available now, and the medical profession, thankfully, is changing its attitude a little bit more. One of the works that you've written is called Galloping Catastrophes. Now, when I was reading about this piece, you'd said it was a phrase from a doctor who meant it in a derogatory way. And first of all, good on you for reclaiming it. That's really important. But, oh my goodness, wow. I mean, is this attitude that women going through the menopause are just galloping catastrophes, is this still prevalent in some places? And I really hope the answer's no, but I suspect it won't be.
Well, it might be a bit controversial, this answer. I think it is a bit prevalent, and I have to say there's probably a tiny, tiny element of truth in it. Like I say, sometimes I do feel like an accident just waiting to happen. I forget things that I never used to forget. I bump into things that I never used to bump into. The filter between my mouth and brain sometimes appears to be broken. I can go to the bathroom and forget why I'm there. So, but I kind of like it now. I kind of accept it. This is what you go through, and I'm accepting it, acknowledging that. And there's some great things about it as well. But I think it is changing. People are understanding more and thinking that's why she's like that. She's not just become crazy. She's not got, all these different conditions. It's actually normal. That's what all women are going through, and that is standard symptoms, in the same way as we accept that when people are pregnant, they have special requirements and other things that they need. I think menopause is now starting to catch up, and people are understanding that things are going to be a bit different when you go through that age.
I think that's a really beautiful way of putting it, that you do have extra needs when you're pregnant, you do have extra needs with any condition, and this is just simply a different condition. I really like that. And sort of relating to that, you also speak very much about not wanting men to be put off, because of course it's about giving support to your wife, to your sister, to your daughters, and so on. How can men make the difference to women?
So I think a number of ways. So all men will know menopausal women, whether they're working with them, related to them, married to them, partnered with them, have them as friends. So I think it is good just to have that kind of understanding. And going back to your point about humour, I think that helps because it's easier to read. People can have a good laugh. So as an example, my friend who was going through it has said she would probably have left her husband if he hadn't started to understand what she was going through. And menopausal women and midlife women, that's our fastest growing divorce demographic at the moment, so it's in men's best interest to start working it out. So I think understanding what's going on, being able to give some support is a huge help, and we do get through it. You know, there are lights all the way through, and at some point women do get through it and come through it with renewed energy, renewed vigour, and I guess a bigger appreciation for life. So yeah, there's definitely a lot more. There's also men's groups available now that people can go in and talk about it and get support. I've been to a couple of menopause events where men have kind of sneaked in the back looking embarrassed, and then they've left going, oh my God, I get it. I absolutely get it now. And that's, again, what we're looking for.
Oh, that's really uplifting and actually really hopeful and inspirational. We're going to take another look at a bit more of Queenagers, and Jennifer's staying with us, so we'll be back just after this.
So you're all very, very welcome, but in particular, the menopausal women is welcome. And the reason for that is, when Becca said this was a show about midlife women, I thought, well, nobody will turn up. Because it involves putting a bra on and then leaving the house. I've noticed a few people over here looking at the exit and thinking, well, do you know what? I got up and got here, so I might as well go home. I've got some mint magnums in the freezer. There's a serial killer documentary I'm still to watch. So I'll just head home now. And that's perhaps due to that symptom, cannot be arsed. Does anybody remember when they were a teenager and used to sneak out of bed and go to a party? Is anybody at a party and just thinking, what do you sneak out of bed? What used to be FOMO, a fear of missing out, quickly becomes JOMO, a joy of missing out. Lockdown is a distant memory, but my God, wasn't it wonderful? The perfect excuse. Oh no, we're going to have to cancel again. I know, but all the politicians are sticking to the rules, so we must too. But yes, the minute lockdown is over, we are definitely going to catch up. It was when lockdown finished, I realised how few people I actually liked.
What is Polly and Morag compare their beavers about? Such a great
Well, that was actually a bit of fun. So a friend who's an illustrator, we had two friends called Polly and Morag, and we just were joking about you know, the use of the word beaver and what it can mean. So we wrote a little book, and this isn't it, but this is a different one. This is about Martha Gets Menopause. But it's all full of cartoons and fun. So we trialled the book first using Polly and Morag compare their beavers, and it was, some beavers are smooth, some beavers are hairy, some beavers like lots of company, some beavers don't. So it looks like a kid's book, but obviously it's designed for adults, although kids actually quite enjoy it, not getting the undertones. So yeah, just a little bit of fun really, and it was a great way to start, because I'd never done an illustrated short book before, so that's how we started, and then we moved on to do the menopause one.
I love it, and it's so nice to keep that light, keep the conversation going, keep the conversation open as well. So going back to the medical professions, on the one hand, I think there is an element of the medical professions being right in kind of trying to reduce us using silly euphemisms like on the blob or Auntie Flo, and it's also good that they're finally showing red liquid on the sanitary towel adverts, which is a big change. But you also put so much value, and you're right to do so, in taking that humorous approach, because some of these situations can be excruciatingly embarrassing. So why why does that relax us that little bit more to be able to almost go, oh, that happened to me as well?
I think so. During the Queenagers show, just before the break, we asked people to give us their confessions, menopausal confessions. And when we come back, we start to read them out, and the entire audience are laughing, but you can also see relief in their faces. Think, oh, it's not just me. I mean, for example, I know I got very emotional as part of my menopausal symptoms, and couldn't really be bothered with people anymore, if I'm being honest, but I had a real, if an animal was upset, then I'd be in tears, and don't watch daytime telly if that does affect you. As a result, I've now got a donkey called Bubbles that I look after, who lives in a Cypriot sanctuary. I've also paid apparently to rehome an orangutan called Bob, because I felt guilty because it's my overuse of cocoa butter that had made him homeless. And I guess confessing things like that to say, do you know what, I did this in a really emotional push. Other people talking about or just different things that they've got themselves into and different experiences I've had. The whole audience are falling about laughing, and during the break they're all talking, so they're writing them down, and then they're saying, oh my God, that reminds me I did this, or oh, that's how it affected me, and this was really funny, wait till I tell you. So now people are talking about it openly but behind humour, and it just makes it more accessible, it makes it easier to have a conversation. And although people are laughing, deep down they're going, oh God, thank goodness for that. What a relief to know that this is normal.
It is a relief, isn't it, to say some of these things as well that you've kind of carried with you.
And to know that other people, you're not the only one. So,
yeah.
So your events are great for that, because everyone has the opportunity to all talk together. How would you start talking in normal day-to-day situations? How would you start the conversation about the menopause? And also, how do you have those conversations with your husbands or partners or whoever you might live with that it might affect?
So I think that's a good question. I mean, for example, at work, when I first started the menopause, I didn't actually want MD to know, but there was a woman at work who was suffering very badly from hot flushes, and in the middle of a meeting you would just see her going bright red and her hair start to sweat. And I quite liked the fact that she just said, oh, just give me a minute, it's just a hot flush, if you just give me a minute it'll pass. There was no embarrassment, there was just straight out, this is what's happening. So I think being open, just saying this is what's happening so that people aren't interpreting it as something else is a big help. Even just bringing it up to your friends gently, I'm using HRT gel, what are you using? What are you finding helps your symptoms? Or for me, and it's a personal one for me, emotions. I didn't really get hot flushes, but my God, I was so emotional, and it could be anger, it could be tears. And just saying, do you get that as well? Well, no, but I suffer really badly from hot flushes. And it's just opening up that conversation, and not being afraid to, and not being embarrassed about it, because like I say, it's a rite of passage for us all. Not every woman will have a child, but every single woman, if they're lucky enough to get to this age, will go through the menopause. And as I said before, 13 million people all talking about it is going to make a massive difference.
Very true.
Yeah, thank you. Where can we learn more about you and the books that you've written?
So Galloping Catastrophe, the one you've mentioned before, is available on Amazon, and that is just a collection of monologues and experiences around the menopause. We are working now to get a national tour of Queenagers. We've concentrated in the southwest up to now, but we are now just trying to get some funding and trying to get this across the whole of the UK, not just in the southwest, because the previous 2 tours have been there. So can watch the space for that one. Just keep googling Queenagers, and when we get it sorted, we will let you know. So yes, that's the 2 main places probably to go to, and my Twitter is @Galloping Catastrophe. Like I say, I've reclaimed that name. So yeah, that's probably the best places to look.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Jennifer. It's been such a pleasure to chat with you. Just before we let you go, could you give us maybe 3 top tips just to have these conversations more easily? Because I really like your point about sometimes just taking it very matter of fact. I know it's putting you on the spot, but do you mind sharing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 3 tips is partly for sharing it, but just partly for the menopausal women to take away. Just make the rest of it the best of it. Look at the rest of your life and focus on making that the absolute best you can possibly do with the decades that you've got left. I mean, previously, believe it or not, the menopause was looked at as the gateway to death. Well, it's no longer seen like that. I mean, you could have you could have a third of your life left. You could have a half of your life left. And like I said before, menopause does have a way of just shaking you and saying, "What are you waiting for? Just go on and do it." So things that you've always put off, just give it a go. I'd also say, this is maybe a bit contentious, I would say feck off more often. And one of the lovely things about getting older is you start to think more about yourself, and you're not so worried about people pleasing and what other people think. And I know Helen Mirren made that great quote, if I was young, I would actually tell more people to feck off. And yeah, stop feeling guilty about not doing things you don't want to, because it doesn't give you the time to do things that you do. And I guess the third one, basically linked on that, write a list, write it down, write down what you want to do over the next however many years, and start ticking them off. It's a lovely, lovely feeling, and they don't have to be big things, they can just be little things. Maybe you've also always wanted to sit and watch sunset with a blini at the top of a hill somewhere. I'll go off and do it. Maybe you've always wanted to, next car, make it that sexy little convertible. Why not? So maybe just have that why not at the end of everything. I think that'd be my top tips.
Brilliant. Oh my goodness. Jennifer, it has been so joyful and uplifting and inspirational talking to you. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much. In today's Test the Trend, I wanted to talk about better communication, because that seems to really fit with the overriding message of today, is that we do need to talk more. And there's been a campaign that's been running, which is a collaboration between 3, the phone network, and the Samaritans. And this is about taking 3 minutes to really connect with other people. And to have that connection means that not only does it boost our well-being, but when we ask people, are you okay? Are you really okay? We already know what their baseline looks like, so we know whether to ask or not. So here are some tips to have better conversations. The first is listen like you mean it. So that means actually listen. Next time you ask someone, how are you? Don't stare at them, but really look them in the eye and listen to them. Really listen to what they're saying. And then even follow up with open-ended questions. Who, what, where, why, when, how. Because that way you show you're connecting with what they're saying. Tip number 2, unfold your arms, or at least have slightly open body language, because body language speaks volumes. And yes, admittedly, if we're cold and we're all turned in, then that's one thing. But if you're standing there listening to someone and your arms are crossed like that, it really feels a bit judgmental. So try and keep your body language as open as possible. And finally, and this is a fun one, a silly one, a meme a day keeps the distance at bay, and that's from 3. But this is when just sending a quick meme, a photograph, something funny, a link, I saw this and thought of you, it really allows you to connect with that person that you're sending that message to, and they know you're thinking of them, and chances are they'll be thinking of you right back. So try those, let us know how you get on in the comments, and really focus on getting better connected. And we're now going to go over to Linzi of Linzi Loves to Organise for her tips on decluttering.
I'm going to talk to you about keeping on top of your laundry and getting some systems in place to help you with that. So I think quite often it's like a never-ending pile. It just continues. You feel like you've just washed and there's loads more and the basket's overflowing. So to get some systems in place, it will really, really help you. So the first thing I would say is once your laundry basket is starting to overflow, it's definitely time to put a wash in. If you keep on top of it and do it little and often, lots of people don't have the drying facilities or the space to do that, especially in winter. So if you keep on top of it, then you should make things a little bit easier. I would also recommend in your kind of washing area where your washing machine is or tumble dryer, whatever, having all of your items that you need to hand. So if you've only got a small area, decant some of the stuff into boxes. So I have a little box that's got my washing tablets in, and I've got a trusty turntable. An organiser always loves a turntable. So I have a turntable that has all of my products in that I'm going to use, like sprays for stains and things like that, but it's all together. So when I come to go into my washing machine, I can just grab what I need, and then I know that I'm going to do it, and I'm going to put my washing straight on, and that's my cycle started. So first things first, I think you need to teach your family that they have to put the dirty laundry into the basket. If it's not in the basket and it's all over the floor, nobody knows what needs washing. You're going to miss items like, I don't know, things from school or sports stuff. You're going to miss it because it's not in the wash basket. So the first thing would be to train your family to put the stuff into the wash basket. Once it's full, or getting there, then start doing your washing. So I would have specific days for washing things. So for example, you know on a Friday that the school uniform is going to need to be done. So do the washing straight away, get on top of it so that it's going to be ready and ironed, ready for a Monday morning. The other thing is like sports kits. So my children both play sports Saturday and Sunday. I know they'll need that for you know, the weekend after. So, and that takes quite a long time to dry. So I have to be on top of that to make sure that it's ready to go. So the next thing I would say is to get yourself some good baskets. So not the laundry baskets, that's for the dirty washing. These are the ones that are going to help you with your washing and drying. So lots of people have these humongous baskets, and they're great if you've got the space, but where do you put them? So I bought myself these ones actually, and they're a bit taller, but they're quite flimsy, which means I can carry them easier one-handed as well because they bend. And they stack inside each other. I've got 3. So I have one that I go and get the dirty washing from. Then I have one that my clean washing will go in. I might have one sat there with the next load of washing ready to go in. They're just really handy. And then the other one has my ironing pile in. So these work really, really well. If you don't have space, you can also buy collapsible baskets as well, which will then probably stand behind the door. And if you really don't have space, then these bags, I'd say, are really good. So these are just the IKEA Dimper bags, which you can get loads of stuff in. It will, you know, easy to carry your washing up and down the stairs, and then you can just fold it away afterwards and put it somewhere in the cupboard. So it's not an issue at all. Try and get your drying out as quickly as possible. Obviously the weather is very unpredictable, so if you are hanging it outside, that might be quite tricky. Lots of people have airers. I have a hanging rail, so my things come out of the washing machine and I hang them on my rail like the ones you get in the shop. Just and I leave them there and move the rail around the house. So if we're in the lounge and we've got the log burner on, then that's going to dry quicker. Or if we're in another room and the heating's on, I'll just move it around to make use of the heat in the house. The other thing is you can get heated dryers as well, heated airers. So I actually saw this in my client's house yesterday, and she was telling me all about it. And it has like a cover over it, so you put the things in, and I think it takes 3 or 4 hours to dry things. But the plus side of this was it also heated her room, so a double win there. It was good. Okay, once it's dry, I think this is where lots of people take the stuff off, because then they're going to put another load on the airer, and then what happens to that stuff? It's often just left there. To make the cycle complete, you need to do that, and you need to follow it through and get it all finished. So when it comes off the airer, use your baskets again, fold them nicely, as in if you're going to be putting them straight away, you don't just want to chuck it in, because all of your items are going to be really screwed up. Now, just wanted to talk to you a little bit about ironing actually. So before lockdown, I ironed everything. Other than socks, I didn't iron socks, but I ironed everything. I ironed tea towels, I ironed bedding, I ironed my husband's boxer shorts, literally everything. Lockdown happened, I hardly iron anything now. The things I iron are the things that I have to iron, so perhaps like the children's school shirts. And if I'm going out and I want to look a bit nice, then I'll iron my things. But I just wasted so much time ironing, and I don't have a lot of spare time. So I do really look at things, and actually by hanging my things on a rail, as soon as they come out of the washing machine, they dry much better. Obviously shake it out and, you know, kind of reshape it, but that saves so much time on ironing. So then decide what you're going to iron. Put your things away into your basket to take upstairs to then put away. So another good tip would be to categorise things as it goes in. So putting certain people's things together. So all of my things together, all of my husband's things together, and then the children's. So when you take it upstairs, you can then take that pile, pop it on that bed, take that pile, pop it on that bed. And the other thing is, I said about training your family to obviously get the things into the basket, but start from a very early age where possible, getting them to put their clothes away as well. So by putting them on their bed, they then need to put it away. And I've heard lots of people say, their daughters, sons, don't put it away, so the clean washing goes back on the floor and then they don't know if it's clean or dirty. So by installing that with them, that would be really, really helpful for yourself and save a lot of washing time as well. So yeah, once it's gone back in there, that's the cycle almost complete. You just need to do the rest of the ironing. So do it as quick as possible, because just think to yourself, once you've done that ironing, that whole cycle is finished and you're ready to go again. But it means you've got on top of one of the cycles at least, and it's not just half here, half there, and, you know, constantly having clothes hanging around the house.
What a joyful show to have been part of.
It really was, because the subject can be quite serious or it can be quite dry, you know,
Yes.
depending on what angle we're looking at it from. So,
Yeah.
you know, to have some humour and some lightness injected into it.
And it is so much easier, I think, to have conversations about a piece of art than it is even just to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Because at least, I don't know, when you're talking about something you've seen or something you've watched or something you've read, you already remove yourself.
Yes.
You say, oh, this character did this. What are your thoughts on that? And it's easier to start talking.
It is, yeah. Especially if it doesn't affect you personally, like you say, you're removed from it. And also, when we're sitting here thinking, oh, I've got this to look forward to, then that's not really going to be a joyful thing, is it? Yeah. But it can be made so. It just depends on the viewpoint that you have, I suppose.
Yes. What are you taking from today?
To understand that different symptoms might all be part of the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's quite interesting as well, because long COVID kind of has many of the same symptoms as I'm learning that the menopause does. So if somebody has long COVID or suspect they do, but they're also facing the menopause, then, you know, you need a really good understanding doctor to be able to sort out what's what and actually what the issue is, and then therefore how it can be treated.
Yes, and treat the right thing.
Yes.
Because that's the biggest problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you're going there, it's been misdiagnosed,
Yes.
and suddenly you're taking antidepressants and they're not working. Well, of course they're not, because that's not what the problem is.
Exactly right. Or you know, will the doctor put it down to a stressful period in your life, or something else?
Which happens quite a lot, unfortunately, because this will be the age, I guess we are getting more stressed because there's more responsibilities and things.
Yeah.
One thing Jennifer said that I really resonated was, I love the example she gave of the woman in the workplace who just went, hang on a minute, it's a hot flush, just it'll pass, move on.
Yeah.
And that's great. Actually treating it like matter of fact.
Well, it is, because really it's not much different to saying, oh, I've got a headache.
Yeah.
You know, which you wouldn't shy away from saying necessarily, would you? So why should you shy away from that? That's a really good point.
Oh, gosh. Well, hopefully you found today just as uplifting and conversation stirring as we have. Let us know in the comments if you've been having more conversations lately, and have a good night.